Hey there, everybody! It's been a while, hasn't it? But yeah, I'm finally here for episode 12 of Loco Profiling, Southern Pacific 5021. As already said, this is one of 4 episodes that some of you lot have actually voted for, and I'm going to do those 4 episodes in the order of most votes to least votes. Still not looking forward to the third one that I have to do in that list, but whatever. Anyway, Southern Pacific 5021. It's a good engine. Hopefully I'll do it some justice in this episode. Apologies if it's a little bit rushed, but hope you enjoy. During the 1920s, the Lima Locomotive Works in Lima, Ohio began with its concept of superpower. This was a new builder's craft invented by the company's Vice President of Engineering, William Woodard, that led to the building of new steam locomotives with bigger fireboxes to produce a greater quantity of steam faster, requiring a bigger, more substantial trailing bogie with 4 wheels instead of 2 to support the extra weight. However, over at the American Locomotive Company, it was believed that a locomotive featuring 3 cylinders instead of 2 would offer more power under a more efficient platform. To do so, the manufacturer took a basic 210-2 Santa Fe type and added an additional pair of wheels to the pilot bogie to compensate for the additional weight of the 3rd cylinder up front. This resulted in the new 410-2 wheel arrangement, which became known as the Overland type, due to being tested on the Overland route on the Union Pacific Railroad. At least, I'm going to assume that that's what happened. I never got a clear answer to that, but I'm going to assume that the 410-2 wheel arrangement became known as the Overland type due to being tested on the UP, on their Overland route, specifically. But then again, it's not like that really matters, because on the Southern Pacific Railroad, the 410-2 wheel arrangement was literally called the Southern Pacific type. How dull. Anyway, the SP Trainline publication article on their 410-2 engines stated that mechanical engineer Frank E. Russell of the SP's Motive Power Department developed the details with Alco on the design, with the folks in Alco persuading the SP to go with the 3-cylinder layout. In all, 49 locomotives, numbered 5000 through 5048, would be built by Alco's premier workshops in Schenectady, New York, and they emerged between 1925 and 26. This one, Locomotive 5021, was built in May of 1926, and like the other engines of the class, it was designed for hauling passenger trains and mixed freights over the Sierra Nevada mountain range. But apparently later in its career, 5021 was transferred to Oregon, remaining in service there until being withdrawn in 1955. Thankfully, in early 1956, the SP donated 5021 to the Railway and Locomotive Historical Society. Amazingly though, in 1961, it was fired up and used for operation on the museum's spur line. However, SP officials frowned upon this, so they were forced to pull up the tracks in 1963. And before you ask, no, I can't call this an excursion career. You want an excursion? Go on a big mainline rail tour. Anyway, following this, 5021 was stored in a roundhouse on the Santa Fe Railroad, though I don't know in which specific town, while folks there were planning a possible excursion career for the locomotive. Like, an actual excursion career, as in mainline rail tours, like I just said. But the plans were dropped, and so was the locomotive itself, apparently. While the engine was being moved by crane to its current home at the LA County Fairplex in Pomona, California, it sustained damage during the re-railing procedure. Now, as for tractive effort, 5021 could produce 87,277 pounds for it. The related geometry for this was as followed: 63-inch driving wheels, a boiler pressure of 225 psi, and a threesome of 25-inch diameter cylinders. The odd part is the piston stroke inside of those cylinders, because while the outside cylinders had a piston stroke of 32 inches, the inner cylinder had a shorter stroke of 28 inches. But apparently this was due to the locomotive using a copy of the conjugated valve gear designed by Sir Nigel Gresley for his 3-cylinder locomotives on the London and Northeastern Railway in the United Kingdom. Oh, and there's another 5021 in preservation, but that's a 210-4 Texas type of larger proportions from the Santa Fe Railroad. Kinda sus, really. But as far as I'm concerned, the Southern Pacific Overland locomotive is the real 5021. Partially because it's much more unique. It's the sole survivor of her class for one thing, and it's one of only 2 Overland types in preservation, the other one being Baldwin number 60,000. Whereas, when it comes to the Santa Fe 5021, there are more than 2 Texas types in preservation. And in fact, when we look at the Santa Fe Railroad alone, they preserve 5 Texas types. So, A model of 5021 was used as the ghost train in Sometimes They Come Back, a 1991 made-for-TV horror movie. But in those scenes, the filmmakers used the hooter whistle from Men&W 1218 instead of its real whistle. Oh well. But anyway, sorry if this episode was a little bit rushed, but I hope you still enjoyed it. Next week, as I promised by the results of the poll that I did in late 2023, it's gonna be Southern Railway number 850, Lord Nelson. See you then!